another reading vlog. I have been meaning to start this reading vlog for at least a week, but it seems like all my energy is just going into my new job, especially since we've started going back into the office 1 or 2 days a week, and that commute is a killer. And I thought that I might have more time for listening to audiobooks since I was commuting, but it turns out that my commute time just takes away all my walking time, which I would normally listen to my audiobook on anyway. So I haven't been listening to more audiobooks. However, since I last was vlogging, I have finished 2 audiobooks. So firstly, I listened to Soulbinder by Sebastian de Castell, and I should have told you about all my thoughts while I was listening to it, because now I've forgotten a lot of those thoughts. But I did enjoy it. This is all about this boy who is about to do his magic exams, and then he loses all his magical abilities. In this book, the 4th book? Or is it the 5th? I think it's the 4th book. Anyway, in this one we learn a lot more about this magical disease called the Shadow Black, and I thought it was really interesting. I do think in general there's just so much going on in these books, and every book almost has like an entire new cast of characters and an entire new magic system, and it's cool, but it's also just kind of overwhelming and unfocused. So I like it and it's a lot of fun, but I don't love it. Still, I am excited to continue that series soonish, probably. Then the next audiobook I picked up. Oh, and I returned it! The next audiobook I picked up was A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, the Hunger Games prequel, and I had bookmarked some bits that I was going to play you because it was so terrible. But I returned it, so I can't. Anyway, basically this is the prequel, which tells us about how President Snow got to be who he was, but honestly doesn't really tell you that. In the beginning it was quite boring, but then when the tributes for the Hunger Games came along, it got a little bit more interesting. Still not like the same level as the original Hunger Games books, but it was okay. Snow is mentoring this girl from District 12 called Lucy Gray, and there was a romance that was entirely unbelievable, and I just never got what she saw in him. And of course his side of things was all very possessive and yuck, but at the same time, like, he never really did anything that evil until suddenly he was doing like quite bad shit at the end, and I didn't feel like that transition was sensible. But also the Hunger Games part of the story finishes around 66%, and it was pretty boring after that too, so it's possible that I just didn't pay attention as well as I should have, and I missed some of the clues about how he became what he became. But it didn't really, I don't know, I just thought there would be something more interesting happening, but it didn't really happen. Also, 100% don't listen to the audiobook if you want to read this book, because there is a significant element of this story that is about singing and music, and there's a whole bunch of different songs throughout the book, and the audiobook narrator cannot sing. It's this guy, and honestly there was one part where he was going la 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 la. What is that? Every song he would just like say it, and even there's a bit where the Mockingjays are like repeating the melody of the song that Lucy Gray's just sung, and he just sung it in complete monotone. So what the hell are the Mockingjays gonna do with that? So overall, I don't think it was terrible, but it's 100% not at the level of the original Hunger Games trilogy, so I think most people will be kind of disappointed in it. I mean, I didn't hate the reading experience, and I'm glad that I've read it so that I kind of know what happened with that prequel, but unfortunately, not the best. So, actually the next audiobook I am going to be picking up is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, so I'm excited about that, and I have to go into the office tomorrow, so we'll be commuting again, and so I should get through a decent amount of it, although I see that it's 18.5 hours, and so that might take me a little bit. And also this weekend, I'm having a birthday party weekend, so not my birthday, other people's birthdays. So who knows how much I'll get through in this vlog. Who knows what time period this vlog will cover. But I do also want to try and get to some physical books. I did start reading The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin, and honestly the prologue, I loved it. There are some lines in here such beautiful writing. I can see though that it would totally put some people off because it's written in the second person again, and it's really playing with some concepts and some ways of writing that I think if you like it, you'll love it. But if you don't like it, then it's probably going to be a pretty awful experience for you. But still, I think anybody who gets up to book 3 in this trilogy is probably going to be excited for what's going on in this book. I am only up to chapter 2, which is page 30, so I'm not very far through, and honestly I haven't read any of it for the last few days. I keep to be honest, I keep bringing this book out here because I'm like, today I'm going to vlog, and then at bedtime I take it and I put it in the bedroom like, I'm going to read before bed, and I don't read before bed, and then I bring it back out here. I'm going to vlog. I'm going to go read it before bed, and I don't do either of those things. So I mean, I've vlogged, so maybe I'll do some reading? Maybe. Also tomorrow, I'm gonna have to return Oathbringer to the library. I'm so sad because I only got halfway through, but unfortunately there's a whole queue, so I can't renew it. I suspect a lot of people are wanting to read this before the 4th book in the trilogy comes out. It's not a trilogy, it's a 10-book series. What would the 4th book in the trilogy even be? I told you, I've got no brain left after working. The 4th book comes out very soon, and so a lot of people are wanting to read this 3rd one. So there wasn't a whole queue before when I first got this out, but there is now, so I'm going to have to return it. And I think I'm actually going to start listening to this on audiobook, because I just think a big thick book like this is not working for me at the moment while I get back into working life. I think once I get kind of into the routine of working, I'll get back into the routine of reading, but at the moment we're in a weird situation. So tomorrow, sadly, I'm going to return that, but I will get the audiobook maybe a little bit later in the month, because I got a new Audible subscription, but I don't get another credit until later in the month, so I will use it for Oathbringer. Anyway, this is probably a ridiculously long intro to a vlog, but that's because I left it so long. Hopefully, I'll talk to you soon. Hello, so I'm about to continue my birthday weekend and head off to watch some movies with my sister. I think she has a big list of ones we're going to watch. But I thought I would quickly catch you guys up on where we're at. So on Thursday, I went into town for work and I managed to finish off in the morning the audiobook of Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay, which I was reading previously and I haven't talked about in this vlog. But it is a book of essays, and I had said that a lot of them didn't actually seem to be about feminism. However, I found as it went through, there were more about feminism, although mostly focused on feminism in media, which I'm kind of less interested in, even though, like, it's important, but as I think I said in my last vlog, if you haven't watched the media that it's talking about, then it's hard to really consume the ideas. Anyway, the last essay was actually the essay about being a bad feminist. And so I think if you're interested in the title of the book, you really should just read the last essay and then you can decide whether you want to read the rest. Overall, I think I enjoyed it, but it was probably a little bit intellectual given that my brain power is currently depleted due to starting a new job. So maybe I'll re-listen to it at some point, although I don't think essay collections are really my favorite, so maybe not. But I do think that if you like that kind of thing, this is probably a very good essay collection. Then on my way home from work when I was stuck in traffic, I started listening to The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, and I found it hard to focus on it, which again, I don't know if that's the book's fault or the fact that my brain is not entirely functional at the moment, or at least my brain is overwhelmed at the moment. But basically, it starts out with this story about this pirate in jail, and then he starts telling a story about this acolyte getting into this underground secret group, and then she starts reading a story or something, another story about this boy who finds this door and decides not to go through it, so he misses out on finding the Starless Sea, which I think is some kind of underground library. Maybe not, because the problem I was having is that I just couldn't really pay attention to it. So I actually went back and re-listened to it, and I feel like I understood it more on the second go, but still my mind is wandering. However, then it did get into this boy finding this book in the library and starting to read it. And then he figures out that that third story about the boy finding the door is actually something that happened to him in the past. And so then he's freaking out, realizing that this book is telling that memory of his and that he's missed out on this opportunity to go through the door and find this magical place. So that sounds very convoluted and it's very strange, and I think I like the bits with the boy reading the book more, but then it keeps skipping back to some of these little stories that are within the book. So I don't know, I'm gonna keep listening to it, but I'm a little bit confused so far. I need to try and focus, which I think now that I've had kind of a few relaxing days, I'll be better at focusing. Fingers crossed. Also, while we were away, we had like a free hotel stay that we'd won. We were meant to use it for my birthday in April. Obviously that didn't work out. Then we were going to use it for Jason's birthday, and now, I mean, it's kind of not that long after his birthday, but we had a free night at the hotel and a free meal. That was nice. We also went to see the movie Tenet, and I loved it. It's like twisty time stuff. And like after we watched the movie, I actually looked up a diagram because it's that kind of movie, and I feel like I need to watch it probably several more times to totally understand it, but I really loved it. I really, really did. And if you like twisty time stuff and you haven't seen it, then I would recommend it. I do think it's a bit weird because it's very action oriented. Like all the explanations are just done in like 1 or 2 sentences, and if you don't listen, then you probably gonna miss them, but I liked it. And then also last night we watched American Psycho, which is very dark, but I liked it as well. I'm not sure what the experience would be like for people who didn't experience the 80s and so don't really know what things were like then, because it really is a commentary about narcissism and businessmen in the 80s. I love the part where his colleague gets a fancier business card with him and he has like a total meltdown. I also think that it's a very interesting movie to watch in terms of the fact that this is the environment that Trump grew up in when he was a young businessman. And so it's interesting to think about how this is a commentary on a time that had a big influence on the current president of America, who has a big influence on the world. So if you haven't watched American Psycho, maybe give it a go and have a think about how messed up our world is. Anyway, I'm supposed to be heading off to my sister's, but I did also just want to touch on one more thing. So I had said that I was going to reward myself whenever I finish books on my TBR, and I haven't finished any books on my TBR yet, but I have finished some books, and I've decided I get rewards for finishing books even if they're not on my TBR. So, but I also decided that if I buy myself anything nice, then that has to count as one of the rewards. So, when I was buying my sister some birthday presents, I bought myself some Lush bath bombs. So that's gonna count as my reward for finishing Soulbinder. And then The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Also, when I was looking for things to buy my sister, I went to the shop and I found this little zebra with this fake plant, which is good because I always kill plants. So a plant that I can't kill, and he's so cute, and I've just put him here next to my desk and he's been making me happy. So he counts as a reward, and then I guess I get a reward for Bad Feminist too. What I want the reward to be is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab. However, I actually ordered and paid for it on Book Depository the other day, and then the very next day they sent me an email saying, sorry, it's sold out, we've cancelled your order and refunded you. And I was like, well, that's annoying. Give me a notification when it's back in stock. And the very next day, they sent me an email that it's back in stock. Like, could you not have just waited a day and then put my order into that So I'm going to reorder it, and I think that'll be my reward for finishing Bad Feminist. And then once we finish the Stardust Sea, I'll come up with a new reward for that. I do have a lot of things on my want to buy list, so I don't think it'll be hard to find something. It'll just be hard to pick. Anyway, as I feel like I've said several times, I've got to go, but I will check in again later. I just filmed my September wrap up. It's already the 12th of the month, so I'm very behind this month. I've pretty much taken like a 2-week break from BookTube, which is completely unplanned, but that's what happened. I'm starting to get back into things. Maybe I did just go to try and order myself my reward copy of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and it's out of stock again, so that's really not helpful. Who knows when I'm going to get my hands on that. It's almost like I should put my hold on the audiobook, even though it's going to take 6 months for that to show up. Maybe 6 months is still quicker than I'll be able to get it physically. I also don't know when I'll have time to read it physically, because have I read any physical books this month? No, I don't think so. Thank goodness for audiobooks, because I still have read a few books this month. I'm not doing terribly with audiobooks. So as far as the Starless Sea, I think I'm about a quarter of the way through now. And honestly, I'm a little bit frustrated because I really like the story of this guy named Zach. Let's call him Ezra, because they call him Ezra in some parts of the book. Basically, he's getting involved in this secret society and learning more about this underground library, underground world of stories. I don't know. I'm really liking that part of it though, but every time I get into that part of the story and it starts to flow, it stops and it goes off to one of these other stories from inside the book, or stories from this underground world, and all those stories are kind of fitting together, and they do fit with this secret society that we're learning about, but still they're different stories and they're told in a different way, and I just feel like they break up the flow, and every time I have to like reset myself into a new story. But still, as the stories start to kind of make more sense, or like you know where those stories fit into the world, they're less disruptive. So maybe as I continue, they won't bother me so much, I guess. They are written very beautifully. It's just that I was interested in the other part of the story. So why did you stop telling me the other part of the story? I will also say this week and last week I've been doing this thing where first thing in the morning I listen to non-fiction rather than fiction. So I have started reading So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. I have not read very much of it yet. 40 minutes, which is nearly 10%. Basically she's just talking about how important it is to talk about race and what kinds of issues are racial issues. And I think also just like addressing that it is a difficult topic to talk about, but that doesn't make it less important to talk about it. That makes it more important to talk about it. So far, it's fine. I haven't really gotten into the meat of it yet though. I think I'm still in the introduction stage. But I do think that it's working quite well reading the non-fictions in little tiny bits early in the morning rather than reading a whole big chunk in one go, because it's kind of like little bits of ideas that I can absorb over time. Especially in the morning when my brain is fresher, because by the end of the day, after working, my brain's not at its best. Anyway, I don't know when I'm going to finish this vlog. I'm thinking maybe when I finish the Starless Sea, but I guess we'll see how long that takes me. And maybe tonight I could even read some of the Stone Sky. So at lunchtime today I went and voted, because our election here in New Zealand is this Saturday, and because of COVID they've made a real effort to have heaps of advanced polling places, and they're really encouraging people to vote early. So I went and voted early and it was really good. I've been hearing some things lately about Americans having to wait like a whole day in order to vote. Honestly, the advanced polling place was 2 minutes up from my house and it took like 5 minutes. And as well, like when you get there, there's a QR code that you can scan for COVID contact tracing, and then they give you hand sanitizer, and they even give you like a disposable pen so that people aren't using the same pens. And then like you just go in. There was like a couple of people in front of me, but I only had to wait like a minute, and then got my voting papers. I voted. done. So easy. Now we just worry about the result on Saturday. It should be okay, but we know that you can never trust the polls. And so even if you're confident that the party you have voted for is going to win, you just don't know until the day. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. Other than that, I've still been listening to The Starless Sea. I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through at the moment, and honestly, about halfway through, some twisty time stuff started happening. And you guys know I love twisty time stuff. And as well, it started to become clear, like all the connections between the different characters and what all the stories are meaning. And I really wish, one, that I'd taken notes, but also that I'd been reading this at a time when my brain was not distracted by work stuff. Really, I wish I'd read this at the start of the year. I should have read it at the start of the year. So that's annoying, but I'll probably reread this at some point when I am not as distracted. But at this point in the story, I am really enjoying it. And so tonight, I'm gonna try and listen to some more of this. I actually need to finish it in the next couple of days or it's gonna return itself to the library. But I am driving into town for the next 2 days, so I'll have time to listen to it on my commute. Tonight, I think I'm gonna actually try to read some of The Stone Sky. I also need to edit a video because I haven't put up a video in forever. So I'm gonna edit a video and do this, and maybe I'll alternate so that I don't get too sick of either one. I don't have too much else to do tonight, so that's a plan. Hello, so it's been a few days, but I did finally finish off The Starless Sea, and I feel kind of bad about it. There are definitely aspects that I really liked in it, and I just really wish that I had been in the frame of mind that I could have put more attention into it, because I really think there was a lot there to like and a lot to think about. I really liked some of the characters, but I can also see why a lot of people would be like, what the hell is this? It kind of wanders around in concepts of stories, and there's all these weird metaphors and connections. But like, if you like that stuff, then I think you would love this. So I can see why I've seen people saying that they really love this and people saying they didn't like it. I do think if you like the Night Circus, then you're more likely to like this. If you didn't like the Night Circus, then there's absolutely no point in trying The Starless Sea, because you won't like it. I do think like the characters were similar in the way that they were likable between those two books, but I feel like the plot was a bit less clear in The Starless Sea, and given that the plot is not very clear in the Night Circus, I think that says a lot. Anyway, I think the summary is that I will probably reread The Starless Sea at some point when I am more relaxed in my life. Now, I did also read one more chapter of The Stone Sky, but that's all I managed to get through. And that chapter was intense and I really liked it. Oh no, I read 2 chapters, because there was that chapter and there was also like this backstory chapter starting to tell you kind of more about how the world got where it is, I think. And that's really interesting as well. So I'm super excited to continue this soon. There might be some problems with that next week, but straight after this I'm going to start next week's vlog, so you have to check that out to find out what happens next. Also, today is election day, but I'm not going to tell you the outcome of that until the next vlog either. But if you really care about the New Zealand election, you can probably look it up before my next vlog will be up. Anyway, all I can say for this weekish of reading is thank goodness for audiobooks, or I wouldn't have been able to read anything. Hopefully next week will be better for reading. If you have read any of the books that I talked about in this vlog, I would love to talk with you more about them down in the comments. Otherwise, thank you for hanging out with me over the last week and a bit. I hope that you're doing well, and I will see you next time.